Massive screens flickered to life, casting an eerie blue light across the United Nations General Assembly Hall. Delegates from every corner of the world sat frozen, their faces a mix of confusion and growing fear. The holographic image that appeared was unlike anything they had ever seen before. Coral, the Cronian ambassador, looked nothing like a human. His skin shimmered with a mix of metallic blues and deep purples, shifting like oil on water. Multiple eyes, 6 in total, blinked independently, each one a different color. When he spoke, his voice came out as a strange mix of clicks, hums, and words that seemed to float through the air. "People of Earth," Coral began, his translator rendering his alien speech into perfect, emotionless English. "Your planet has been identified as a potential resource zone for the Galactic Imperium. You have 2 choices: surrender completely and become a colony, or face total destruction." Admiral J. Park stood at the back of the assembly hall. His weathered hands were clasped behind his back, fingers touching the small communication device hidden in his jacket. He had seen many threats in his long military career, but this was different. This was something no human had ever faced before. Next to him, Dr. Hannah Kim adjusted her glasses. Her mind was already racing, calculating, processing. As Earth's leading quantum physicist, she saw the transmission not as a threat, but as a complex puzzle waiting to be solved. Coral continued, his multiple eyes scanning the room. "You have 30 standard galactic cycles to prepare. This is not a negotiation. This is a final warning." The holographic image showed massive ships, each one larger than entire cities, positioned just outside Earth's solar system. They looked like dark metal mountains, bristling with weapons that glowed with an unnatural pulsing light. The room erupted into chaos. Some politicians screamed in panic. Others demanded immediate military action. A few sat quietly, their faces pale with shock. The United Nations had faced many challenges before, but never an alien civilization that could wipe out humanity with what seemed like a simple thought. "Silence," shouted the UN Secretary General, his voice cutting through the noise. Coral's image remained, watching, waiting. Admiral Park leaned closer to Dr. Kim. "What do you think?" he whispered. Hannah's eyes never left the holographic display. "Those ships," she muttered, "they're not just technological. They're almost alive." Her fingers moved quickly, sketching complex diagrams on a tablet she pulled from her pocket. Mathematical equations and strange diagrams appeared and disappeared in seconds. The Cronian ambassador's transmission began to break up. Before disappearing, Coral's final words echoed through the hall. "Prepare, surrender, or be erased." As the hologram flickered and died, a heavy silence fell over the room. The world had just changed forever. Outside the UN building, people were already running in the streets. Some were panicking. Some were crying. But in research labs, military bases, and hidden government facilities around the world, something else was happening. Humanity was preparing to fight back. The world changed overnight. Just days after the Cronian ultimatum, something strange began to happen. People who would never have worked together were now sitting in the same rooms, talking, planning, and fighting for survival. In a small conference room in Seoul, Sung-ho leaned over a workbench covered in strange metal pieces and blinking computer screens. His hands moved quickly, connecting wires and adjusting tiny components. Around him, a team of engineers from different countries watched with hope and fear in their eyes. "The shield technology might work," Sung-ho said, his voice calm but excited. He held up a small device that looked like a mix between a smartphone and a piece of advanced military equipment. "If we can create a system that adapts faster than the alien weapons can change, we might have a chance." Across the world, in a hidden research facility deep in the Brazilian Amazon, another team was working on something equally unusual. Yuma, a robotics expert with quick hands and an even quicker mind, was programming something that looked like a cloud of tiny metal insects. "Nano swarm units," she explained to her international team. Each one is small, but together they can think, adapt, and repair themselves. Imagine thousands of these moving as one, fixing our ships during battle. The team around her looked both amazed and terrified. These weren't just robots. These were living machines that could learn and change. Back at the United Nations, Admiral J. Park was coordinating a global effort unlike anything in human history. Military leaders from countries that had been enemies just weeks ago were now working together. China, Russia, the United States, India, Brazil. Everyone was sharing technology, resources, and information. "We don't have time to fight each other," Park told a room full of military commanders. "We have to fight them." Tech billionaires were emptying their bank accounts. Entire factories were being converted to build military equipment. Universities became research centers. Every person with a skill, from computer programmers to mechanical engineers, from doctors to mathematicians, was now part of a single mission: survive. In secret labs, scientists were pushing the boundaries of human knowledge. They were taking ideas that had been science fiction just weeks ago and turning them into real technology. Quantum communication systems, adaptive armor, weapons that could change shape mid-battle. Dr. Hannah Kim was at the center of much of this work. Her quantum physics research was providing breakthrough after breakthrough. She discovered ways to create tiny holes in space, micro-wormholes that could let ships move in ways the Cronians would never expect. "They think in straight lines," she told Admiral Park. "We'll fight in spirals, in curves, in ways they can't predict." The global communication networks were buzzing. Social media was filled with people sharing ideas, offering help, showing unity. Young programmers were writing code to help military systems. Artists were designing camouflage patterns. Farmers were growing food to support the massive effort. Humanity was changing. No longer divided by countries or politics, they were becoming something else. Something united. Something dangerous. The Cronians had made a mistake. They thought they were facing a simple, divided species ready to be conquered. They were wrong. In labs, in factories, in military bases around the world, humans were preparing to show exactly how wrong they were. Dr. Hannah Kim's laboratory looked like something from a science fiction movie. Screens covered every wall, filled with moving numbers, strange diagrams, and pulsing lines of code. Most people would see nothing but chaos. But to Hannah, it was a beautiful puzzle waiting to be solved. She hadn't slept in days. The breakthrough came on a Tuesday morning, just 3 weeks after the Cronian ultimatum. Hannah was drinking her 4th cup of coffee when something clicked in her mind. She saw connections that no one had seen before. Quantum entanglement, she whispered to herself. The word seemed to hang in the air of the quiet laboratory. Her team watched as she began writing equations on a massive glass board. Her marker moved so fast it was almost a blur. Numbers and symbols danced across the surface, creating a complex web of scientific possibility. "We can do this," Hannah said, turning to her team. "We can stop their faster-than-light travel." What she had discovered was both simple and impossible. By creating specific quantum distortions, they could potentially create invisible barriers that would mess up the Cronians' advanced navigation systems. It was like creating invisible speed bumps in space that only their enemy would feel. Admiral J. Park arrived just as Hannah was explaining her discovery. His serious face broke into a rare smile. "Tell me more," he said. In orbit above Earth, massive shipyards were working around the clock. Sung Ho's adaptive shield technology was being built into every ship. These weren't just normal military vessels. These were living machines that could think, change, and repair themselves. Each ship was part machine, part computer, part living organism. Sensors covered their surfaces like skin. Advanced AI systems could make split-second decisions faster than any human pilot. If a part of the ship was damaged, nano-repair systems would immediately start fixing it. "We're not just building ships," Sung Ho told his team. "We're building survivors." Around the world, every resource was being used. Car factories were now making tank parts. Computer companies were creating battle networks. Even space agencies that used to compete were now working together. In a hidden facility in Brazil, Yuna was programming her nanoswarm units. Each tiny robot was smaller than a coin. But together, they could do amazing things. They could fly in perfect formation, repair damage, and even act like a single massive computer. "The Cronians think we're weak," Yuna said to her team. "They're going to learn how wrong they are." The global effort was unlike anything in human history. Countries that used to hate each other were now working as one. Every person with a skill was now part of a single mission: survival. Scientists were pushing the boundaries of what was possible. They were taking ideas that used to be science fiction and turning them into real technology. Quantum communication systems, adaptive armor, weapons that could change shape in the middle of a fight. Dr. Hannah Kim's quantum discovery was just the beginning. Humanity was changing. No longer a collection of different countries, they were becoming something else. Something united. Something powerful. The Cronians had made a big mistake. They thought they were going to find an easy target. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The world had changed. Streets that once bustled with normal life were now filled with people training, preparing, fighting. Every university had become a training center. Every factory now made weapons or equipment for the coming battle. In Seoul, students who used to worry about exams were now learning how to operate advanced combat systems. Young programmers wrote complex battle codes. Artists designed camouflage patterns that could fool alien sensors. Even grandparents were helping, teaching survival skills and sharing wisdom. "We are all soldiers now," Admiral J. Park told a massive crowd gathered in a converted sports stadium. Millions watched on screens around the world. Every single person has a role to play. Training camps popped up everywhere. People learned how to use new technologies in days that would have taken years before. Sung Ho's adaptive shield technology became part of basic training. Soldiers learned to move with machines that could think and change faster than human reflexes. Yuna's nanoswarm units were integrated into every possible system. Small robots that could repair equipment, provide medical support, and even act as advanced sensors. Each person was given a personal nanokit that could fix injuries, communicate across distances, and provide real-time information. Dr. Hannah Kim was everywhere and nowhere. She moved between research centers, sharing her quantum technology discoveries. Her work had become the backbone of humanity's defensive strategy. Universities that used to compete for research grants now shared every piece of information instantly. The global communication network had transformed. Social media was no longer about sharing pictures or personal stories. Now it was a massive information exchange. People shared technical knowledge, survival tips, and messages of hope. In the Amazon research facility, teams worked around the clock. Engineers from Brazil worked alongside scientists from Russia, China, and the United States. Old conflicts disappeared. Now, they had only one goal: survival. Military bases looked different now. Soldiers trained with hybrid human AI systems. Tanks could think and move on their own. Planes could change shape mid-flight. Every piece of equipment was smart, adaptive, ready to fight. Food production became a critical mission. Farmers worked with scientists to create crops that could grow faster, survive in harder conditions. Vertical farms appeared in cities. Every rooftop, every empty space became a potential food source. Medical centers transformed into advanced research hubs. Doctors learned how to treat potential alien-related injuries. New medical technologies were developed in weeks that would have taken decades before. Children learned survival skills alongside their normal studies. Schools taught how to use emergency equipment, how to stay calm under pressure, how to work as a team. The entire concept of education changed overnight. "We are no longer just countries," Admiral Park said in another global broadcast. "We are one people, one species." The Cronians had expected an easy target, a divided, weak species that would quickly surrender. Instead, they had awakened something powerful. Humanity was changing. No longer separated by borders or old conflicts, they were becoming something new, something united, something dangerous. Every person now understood a simple truth. They were fighting not just for themselves, but for the entire human race. The countdown to the alien invasion had begun, and humanity was ready. The first shots came without warning. It was a quiet Tuesday morning when the Cronian scout fleet entered the solar system. They thought it would be simple. An easy sweep, a quick look at their target before the main invasion force arrived. They were wrong. Radar stations around Earth lit up first. Massive screens in military control rooms showed strange shapes moving between Jupiter and Mars. The Cronian ships looked like dark metal mountains, sharp edges, impossible angles, technology so advanced it almost looked alive. Admiral J. Park was ready. "Engage defensive pattern Alpha," he said calmly into his communication device. His voice was steady, but his eyes were sharp. The human ships rose from hidden positions. They weren't like anything the Cronians had seen before. Some were large, some were small, but each one moved with a strange, almost living intelligence. Some Ho's adaptive shield technology made them shimmer and change, like light moving through water. Dr. Hannah Kim's quantum disruption systems were working perfectly. The human ships could jump through tiny space folds, appearing and disappearing in ways that made no sense to traditional navigation. The first Cronian ship fired. A beam of pure energy shot out, bright enough to blind normal cameras. But the human ships were prepared. Yuna's nanoswarm units instantly created protective fields. Where the energy beam should have destroyed everything, it just scattered into harmless light. "They're confused," whispered a young radar operator in the main control center. And he was right. The Cronian ships began to move in strange patterns. Their computer systems were trying to understand what was happening. How could these tiny human ships move so fast? How could they survive attacks that had destroyed entire civilizations? One human ship, the Phoenix, commanded by Captain Minwu, did something impossible. It flew directly into a group of 3 Cronian ships. Instead of being destroyed, it twisted and changed. Adaptive armor shifted. Nano repair systems worked faster than the Cronian weapons could damage it. The battle wasn't just about weapons. It was about thinking differently. Where Cronian ships moved in straight lines, human ships moved in spirals. Where Cronian weapons tried to destroy everything, human technologies adapted and survived. Each human ship was part machine, part computer, part living thing. Yuna's nanoswarm units were everywhere. They repaired damage in seconds. They confused alien sensors. They worked as one massive, intelligent system. "We're not just fighting," Dr. Hannah Kim said, watching the battle from a research station. "We're showing them what humans can do." The first contact lasted hours. But it wasn't like any first contact anyone had expected. The Cronians came looking for an easy target. They found something else entirely. As the battle ended, something unusual happened. The remaining Cronian ships didn't retreat in an organized way. They fled, scattered, confused. They had expected a simple conquest. They had found a nightmare. Humanity had just fought its first space battle, and they had won. The message was clear. Earth was not going to surrender. Earth was going to fight. The battle changed everything. Deep in the Cronian command center, far beyond Earth's solar system, something strange was happening. The reports from the scout fleet made no sense. Commanders looked at holographic displays with growing confusion and fear. "They did what?" asked Zara, the lead Cronian strategic analyst. Her multiple eyes blinked in different patterns, a sign of deep confusion among her species. The report was clear. A small human fleet had not just survived an attack. They had turned the attack into something else entirely. The human ships moved like living things. They repaired themselves. They changed shape. They fought in ways that broke every rule of space combat. The Cronians knew. Admiral J. Park understood something important. This wasn't just a fight about weapons. This was a fight about thinking. "We're going to mess with their minds," he told his team in a secret meeting. The room was filled with the best strategists, psychologists, and technology experts from around the world. Yuna stepped forward. Her nanoswarm technology wasn't just about fighting. It was about sending messages. "We can do more than just defend," she explained. "We can communicate in ways they don't understand." The human fleet began to do strange things. They would appear in one location, then vanish. They would send out signals that made no sense. Sometimes they would retreat. Sometimes they would attack from impossible angles. The Cronians were used to enemies that followed rules, civilizations that would break quickly under pressure. But humans were different. Dr. Hannah Kim had been studying the Cronian communication systems. Her quantum research gave humans a unique advantage. They could intercept Cronian messages, understand them, and then send back responses that would confuse their entire system. "They think in patterns," Hannah explained. "We'll break those patterns." Somehow developed special electronic systems that could hack Cronian communication networks. The humans didn't just block messages. They changed them. They made the Cronians doubt their own information. One day, the human fleet would send a message showing they were weak. The next day, they would destroy an entire Cronian patrol group. The psychological pressure was intense. The Cronian leadership began to argue among themselves. Some wanted to continue the invasion. Others wanted to retreat. Their perfect, united empire was showing cracks. Intercepted communication showed growing fear. The Cronians had conquered hundreds of civilizations, but they had never met anything like humans. "They're not just fighting," one Cronian commander said in a private message. "They're playing with us." Admiral Park smiled when his team showed him the intercepted message. This was exactly what they wanted. Fear, confusion, doubt. Every move was calculated. Every battle was a message. Humans weren't just defending. They were telling the Cronians something important. "We are not your easy target." The psychological war had begun, and humanity was winning. The battle near Jupiter's orbit would change everything. Hundreds of human ships gathered in a formation that looked impossible. Some were massive, some were tiny, but each one moved with a purpose that seemed almost alive. The Cronian invasion force looked like a wall of dark metal, huge ships that had crushed civilizations before. Admiral J. Park stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Defiance. Its surface shifted and changed, Sungho's adaptive technology, making it look like nothing the Cronians had ever seen before. "Target their communication networks," Park said quietly. His voice was calm, but his eyes were sharp. Dr. Hannah Kim's quantum disruption systems were working perfectly. Human ships could jump through tiny space folds, appearing and disappearing in ways that made no sense to traditional navigation. The Cronian ships tried to track them, but it was like trying to catch smoke with bare hands. Yuna's nanoswarm units were everywhere, tiny machines that could repair damage, confuse sensors, and act as a single, massive intelligence. Where a Cronian weapon would destroy a normal ship, these swarms would instantly rebuild and adapt. The first wave of Cronian attacks came hard and fast. Energy beams that could melt entire planets shot out from their massive ships. But the human fleet was ready. Ships twisted and changed. Protective fields sprang up. Damage was repaired almost before it happened. Captain Minwoo of the Phoenix did something crazy. His ship flew directly into the center of the largest Cronian battleship. Instead of being destroyed, it seemed to move through the alien ship like a ghost. Nanoswarms created temporary pathways, disrupting the ship's systems from the inside. Hours passed. The battle raged. Space around Jupiter became a massive, moving battlefield. Ships exploded. Ships rebuilt themselves. Ships changed shape and purpose in seconds. The Cronians had never seen anything like this. Their perfect, mathematical approach to war was falling apart. Every time they thought they understood human tactics, the humans would do something completely unexpected. "They're not fighting like a military," one Cronian commander said in a panicked communication. They're fighting like something else. And they were right. Humans weren't just using technology. They were becoming something new. Each ship was part machine, part computer, part living thing. They thought differently. They moved differently. They survived differently. Sung Ho's adaptive technology meant that human ships could change their entire structure in milliseconds. A fighter could become a repair ship. A massive battleship could break into smaller, more agile units. The battle lasted 3 days. 3 days of constant fighting. Most civilizations would have been destroyed in hours. But humans kept coming. Keep fighting. Keep adapting. When the dust settled, something amazing had happened. The human fleet had not just survived. They had turned the invasion force back. Cronian ships retreated in confusion. Their perfect invasion plan was in pieces. They had come looking for an easy target. They had found a nightmare. Admiral Park looked out at the battlefield. Space was filled with destroyed ships. But more human ships were being rebuilt by nanoswarms even as he watched. "We're not just defending," he said to his crew. "We're showing them who we are." Humanity had just won its biggest battle. And the war was just beginning. Coral, the Cronian ambassador who first delivered the ultimatum, watched in total disbelief. The massive screens in the Cronian command center showed something impossible. Hundreds of human ships moved like a single living creature. They weren't just fighting. They were thinking, changing, surviving in ways no species had ever done before. "This can't be happening," Coral whispered. His multiple eyes blinked in different patterns, a sign of deep confusion and growing fear. Dr. Hannah Kim's final weapon was about to be deployed. It was something the Cronians could never understand. A quantum entanglement device that could target multiple Cronian command ships at the same time. It would make their advanced technologies completely useless. Admiral J. Park stood on the bridge of the Defiance. Around him, his crew worked with a calm that would have scared the Cronians if they could see it. This wasn't just a military operation. This was humanity's statement to the universe. "Activate quantum disruptors," Park said quietly. Suddenly, Cronian ships began to lose power. Their advanced navigation systems went dark. Communication networks collapsed. It was like someone had turned off the lights in their entire fleet. Yuna's nanoswarm units were everywhere. Tiny machines that could think, adapt, and work as one massive intelligence. They moved between Cronian ships, disrupting systems, confusing sensors, creating chaos. Sung Ho's adaptive technology had reached its final form. Human ships could now change completely in seconds. A battleship could become a repair vessel. A small fighter could transform into a massive weapon platform. The Cronian leaders began to panic. Their perfect invasion plan was falling apart. They had conquered hundreds of civilizations. They had destroyed entire species without breaking a sweat. But humans were different. "They're not following any rules," one Cronian commander shouted. "How are they doing this?" The answer was simple. Humans weren't just fighting. They were evolving, right there in the middle of the battle. Each ship was part machine, part computer, part living thing. They thought differently. They moved differently. They survived differently. Captain Minwoo of the Phoenix did something that would be remembered forever. His ship flew directly into the largest Cronian command vessel. But instead of being destroyed, it seemed to merge with the alien ship. Nanoswarms created pathways. Quantum systems confused the alien technology. The battle wasn't just about weapons anymore. It was about something deeper. It was about survival. About what a species could become when pushed to its limits. Hours passed. The human fleet kept coming. Every time a ship was destroyed, nanoswarms would rebuild it. Every time the Cronians thought they had won, humans would do something completely unexpected. Coral watched as his entire invasion force began to fall apart. These weren't just soldiers. They were something else, a species that could change, that could adapt, that would never give up. In the final moments, something amazing happened. The human fleet didn't just defeat the Cronian invasion. They transformed the very idea of what a space battle could be. Admiral Park's voice came through on all channels, not just to his own fleet, but to the Cronians as well. "We are humanity," he said simply, "and we are not your target." The battle was over, and the universe would never be the same again. Silence filled the universe. The last Cronian ships disappeared into the darkness of space. Some were destroyed. Some were running. Most were simply confused. They had come to conquer. They had found something else entirely. Back on Earth, people celebrated. But it wasn't a wild party. It was something deeper. A quiet understanding that they had become something new. Admiral J. Park stood on the bridge of the Defiance. Around him, his crew was already preparing for what would come next. This wasn't an end. This was a beginning. Dr. Hannah Kim worked on her next project. Her quantum research had saved humanity. But she knew they were just getting started. The universe was big, and humans were curious. Sun Ho was already designing new technologies, ships that could think, machines that could learn, adaptive systems that could change faster than anyone could imagine. Yuna's nanoswarm units were being studied by scientists around the world. They weren't just weapons. They were a new way of thinking about intelligence, about survival. In the United Nations building, a message was being prepared. Not a message of war, a message of something else. "We are not a conquest," Admiral Park dictated. "We are survivors. We adapt. We overcome." The message would be sent to every known civilization in the galaxy. A simple statement, a warning, a promise. Humanity had changed. The battle had shown something important. They were no longer just a single species on a single planet. They were something more. Scientists discovered something amazing in the weeks after the battle. The technologies they had developed to fight the Cronians could solve problems back on Earth. Nanoswarms could clean oceans. Quantum systems could help solve climate change. Adaptive technologies could rebuild cities. The war had pushed humanity to its limits, and humanity had responded by becoming something new. Schools began teaching different lessons, not just about history or math, but about adaptation, about survival, about thinking in ways no one had thought before. Captain Minwoo, who had done impossible things during the battle, began training a new generation of space explorers. "We're not just defenders," he told his students. "We're discoverers." The Cronian communication network still tried to understand what had happened. How could a species they thought was weak have defeated them so completely? But humans didn't care about their confusion. They were looking forward. New space stations were being built, ships that could travel further than anyone had ever imagined, research centers that would push the boundaries of what was possible. Dr. Hannah Kim gave a speech that would be remembered forever. "We didn't just survive," she said. "We showed the universe who we are." Admiral J. Park looked out at the stars. The Defiance was being repaired, its adaptive technologies already improving. Around him, humanity was changing, growing, becoming something more. The message was clear. Humanity was not going to be a target. Humanity was going to explore, to learn, to grow. The universe had tried to conquer them. The universe had failed, and humanity was just getting started.